when you're loading an airplane and somebody might be drunk or unruly. The pilot comes back and says, "Sorry, Dana, I have to ask you to get off the plane." He has that right to do that because he feels that at that time, that particular person is putting all the other passengers at risk. So he has the right to do that. Same way a captain of a steamship has the right to say this container is putting risk to the rest of the shipments. So that's where weather comes into play. Movement of the ship comes into play, where a ship moves all the time. So blocking and bracing now becomes very important. Who's going to take on the risk that your product is blocked and braced the proper way? Especially if you're shipping LCL, smaller, because you're not doing the actual blocking and bracing. Humidity. And this is where sometimes people don't see how humidity and weather plays a part. When the containers actually come across some of the lower southern seas, it actually rains in the containers. And that's, so if you have a product that needs to be kept dry, they put incandescent packs in containers. I remember when M. Wild was here in Buffalo, and we moved one of our very first containers, and we brought it in, and all the suits were ruined because they forgot to put incandescent packs in the container. Who takes on that risk? Okay, so there's a lot of things that people don't think about, you know, overseas. Shipping by air, it's a little less. I mean, he's not going to just open up the cargo door and throw things off. But, you know, underbelly freight. Remember that if you're shipping underbelly in aircrafts, it's not, there's no heat under there. So that becomes a problem if your product, especially probably for you, if you ever did that. Okay. So those are things that you would want to think about. Cost and freight, again, is not a good term to use for containerized freight because it's not loaded directly on board. And I should recommend that if you're using container freight, probably your best term is free carrier, and name the place that you want to deliver it to. So if you're using a container and you don't want to pay for the main carriage, you would put, and you're using OOCL, you would put free carrier OOCL's yard. Okay? Or if you're using a train, it would be the train station, train port. That's where the term FCA gives you a lot more latitude to name your own place. Seller pays for all goods, responsible for all goods, provide the goods, commercial invoice, take care of the export licensing. has no obligation to provide insurance, deliver the goods on board the ship, seller's responsibility. Seller assumes all risks of loss or damage to the goods until they have been delivered on board the ship at the port assigned by the buyer. Pay all costs until the goods have been delivered on board the ship at the port of shipment. To the named port of destination. Risk transfer and costs are now different. First term that they're different. Notify the buyer, deliver the documents, packaging. Those are all seller responsibilities. The buyer, the difference there is number 5. Assume all risk of loss or damage from the time the goods have been delivered on board the ship, not at the destination port. That's your big difference in CFR. Questions? See if I have any other notes in here. Okay, page 282. Cost, insurance, and freight. Here again, the risks and the costs are different. Seller is still responsible. Provide the goods, commercial invoice, other documentation. Your license, security, your export license, seller's responsibility. Here's for the first time where it changes. Contract for the carriage of the goods from the point of delivery to the named port of destination. Obtain and pay for minimum coverage cargo insurance. Cargo clause C coverage. After lunch, we'll talk about different types of insurance. Also, it's a seller's responsibility. They need to a minimum of 110% of the contract amount. That's the minimum that a seller could buy insurance for.
What insurance company is going to cover you for something more than it cost you to manufacture and ship?
Your insurance company will provide for packaging, will provide for the shipping, transportation cost. That's not part of the sale, the selling cost. So that's how you get up to 110%, correct?
Usually they'll say the value of, when I do the insurance certificate through the insurance, and they'll say percentage above the 100%, and I put 10, and then it adds it in. So it's I usually always do 110.
And what do you put in there? What?
I put the value of the cost of the shipment, value of the shipment.
Value of the shipment.
And then